Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. Last summer it was reported that Scotland was generating enough wind energy to power 2 Scotlands. That sounds very impressive. Maybe they don't need fossil fuels anymore. Let's take a look now and see if this headline is credible. The first problem is that this is just electricity. There's lots of energy usage in Scotland outside of the electricity sector. So we can already see that the headline is deceptive. Bill Gates has a very different opinion. He says that the cost of using current renewables such as solar panels and wind farms to produce all our most power would be beyond astronomical. That's quite different from what the headline in The Independent said. Now let's find out which viewpoint is correct. These graphs show electricity generation by sector in the United Kingdom for this month, last month, this year, and last year. These narrow bands of bright yellow near the top represent solar power. You can see that solar energy is good for only part of the year. It doesn't generate any electricity at night and very little during the winter. Turquoise represents wind power. Sometimes it generates more than 40% of the UK's electricity, but other times it generates close to zero. When the wind's not blowing, you're not going to generate any wind power. When Arctic air masses move in and you need the energy the most, frequently the winds are dead calm. So wind and solar both fail frequently during the winter when you need the energy the most. So what happens when wind and solar fails? Other energy sources are forced to kick in, like natural gas generated electricity. But you can't just turn conventional power plants on and off when the wind fails. This is because power plants use steam to turn turbines. In order to generate the steam required to turn the turbines, you need a lot of hot water, which means that you need to keep the fires burning whether the electricity is being used or not. People can't do without electricity for 6 hours after the wind stops while they're waiting for the boilers to heat up. So whether or not you're using wind power, you're still burning natural gas to keep the water hot. In other words, by using wind power, you're using an unreliable energy source for virtue signaling. The wind turbines not only can't replace conventional power plants, but they can't even turn them off. Use of wind power might be able to reduce the amount of natural gas being burned, but the fires have to stay hot. During the summer of 2018, Britain went for at least 9 days without wind power. You can't generate wind power when there's no wind. Advocates of wind power say, well, that's no problem, we can just store the electricity in batteries. But as Bill Gates points out, there's no battery technology that's even close to allowing us to take all of our energy from renewables. Gates said that it's necessary to deal not only with the 24-hour electricity cycle, but also with long periods of time when it's cloudy and you don't have sun or you don't have wind. And besides the virtue signaling, there are very serious environmental issues with wind power. Each wind turbine requires a massive amount of steel, energy, petroleum products, and concrete to manufacture, transport, and build. Because the wind turbines are so tall and heavy, they require massive concrete bases excavated into the ground. Wind turbines have a very short lifetime. I drive by this defunct wind farm along the Colorado-Wyoming border all the time. The average age of the turbines was 18 years when they were retired. The governor of Colorado wants the state to be 100% renewable by the year 2040. He probably doesn't realize that all of the current wind farms will be defunct by the year 2040. He also doesn't seem to realize that you can't use wind and solar energy when the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining. And when wind farms go defunct, they leave a huge environmental mess behind, like this one at the southern tip of Hawaii. It would be incredibly expensive to remove all of the defunct wind turbines, and it's unlikely that anybody is going to pay to do that. And besides the mess made by the defunct turbines, active turbines are killing raptors. One wind farm in California alone has killed thousands of golden eagles over the last 20 years. We worked hard to restore eagle populations after they were nearly extinct during the 1960s, and wind farms threatened to send them back in that direction. The Audubon Society says wind turbines kill an estimated 140 to 328,000 birds each year in North America, making it the most threatening form of green energy. I went to an Audubon Society talk in Phoenix a year ago and asked them about the wind turbines. The woman giving the presentation said yes, the wind turbines are a huge problem, and she blamed them on Donald Trump. The Audubon Society depends on donors, and as a result, they're extremely conflicted. They put out propaganda like this, which says 2/3 of North American bird species are at risk of extinction from climate change. This is complete nonsense. Birds are descendants of dinosaurs and they're migratory. Birds have survived times when Earth was 10 degrees Celsius warmer and nearly that much cooler than it is now. If North America actually was warming, which it isn't, the birds would simply move a few hundred miles further north. In order to protect our environment and our energy future, we need clear-headed thinking, not mindless propaganda and virtue signaling. Attempting to rely on green energy would be an environmental and societal disaster. Wind and solar power are not reliable, and they also make a big mess. I have a solar panel on my roof, and they're great for individuals, but for society to completely depend on them, it simply wouldn't work. We need to vote out politicians who are taking us down that road. Visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.